Hey, Husker fans, welcome back to the Husker Big Red YouTube channel. I'm Chris Peterson, and joining me as always is my co host, Danny Gillette. And we're back on a Monday morning, and it is officially the offseason for the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Unfortunately, after their loss last Friday, which seems like months ago, it seems like a long time ago. But at any rate, we're here to break it down. Danny, how you feeling on this Monday morning, buddy?
It does seem like months ago, doesn't it? Yet it was only 3 days ago. That just tells me that next August is going to feel like 5 years ago or 5 years from now, and so it's going to be a long off season. But I'm excited for the off season. I love recruiting, and I want to see what this program does to improve. And I know we're going to get to this a little bit later, but the basketball team will certainly keep me busy as I wait for, at the very least, the spring game in April.
Yeah, the basketball team 7-0 with a win yesterday over Cal State Fullerton, so they're cruising right along. They've got a big matchup coming up this weekend, so we'll talk kind of more about that. But yeah, it's we're back in the off season here. It's going to be Matt Rhule's full kind of off season, his first full off season as the head coach, his first full kind of recruiting cycle. Is this 2023 class that's going to be a 2024 class, excuse me. That's going to be signed next month. So a lot to kind of talk about there. But first, I just wanted to look back on the first season of Matt Rhule. And I wrote, if you haven't checked it out, check out huskerbigred.com. I have 5 things we learned from Matt Rhule's first season. And I think that there was a lot of good lessons. Obviously, there's some things that need to improve upon. I tried to take a level-headed approach, take a couple days after the Iowa game to look back at the season as a whole. So doing that, now we've had some time to truly reflect. What's your letter grade, for Matt Rhule's first season on the job?
I'll give him a C for his first season because, like you said, there were a lot of good things. I thought that the defensive play, I know that a lot of it was Tony White, but that also falls under the Rhule umbrella. I thought the defense improved. I think the quality of players that we're bringing into the program improved. I also think, um, you know, we were able to kind of see the blueprint of where this program is trying to go, and that's not always been the case with previous coaching staffs. And so I think that's noteworthy as well. I do think, obviously in terms of game management, there's major question marks there in terms of clock management and, also, and this is going to be a big one for me. I'm not sure about you, but transfer portal evaluations, because obviously, we're not going to belabor the point, but they didn't do so well with the Jeff Sims evaluation. And, quite honestly, this offseason is a chance for them to right the ship in that regard. So there was a lot of good things. There's a lot of things that still need to be, worked out, but at least there's a blueprint for success, in my opinion. And it seems to be a very focused direction that involves, good defensive play, a- as well as, trying to remain competitive in these types of games.
Yeah, I think C is fair. I would give him a C on this first season. They won one more game than they did last year, so there was some improvement. I think, obviously the 4-game losing streak to end the season wasn't great. And that's going to leave a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths, and it really makes next season really pivotal because instead of, kind of having that momentum going into next year, you really next year's really a make or break year, I think, in the Matt Rhule coaching era. Which I think you look at the schedule, the more I look at the schedule, the more I look at this team, if they just get a quality quarterback, like this team can really, I think, kind of break out next season. I know that it's going to be hard. People probably roll their eyes. How many times have we said that before? But I mean, I think like the first 4 or 5 games next year are all at home. I mean, the toughest home game are UCLA and Wisconsin. I mean, so like every home, all 7 home games next year are very winnable with a legitimate quarterback, and then your road games are Iowa, Ohio State, and USC. I mean, those are all going to be really tough. So you're probably not going to win more than 9 games, but I think every other game on that schedule is very winnable. So this is a great chance I think to get 8 or 9 wins. And I don't know. I mean, Sean Callahan in in his report today, he said that Nash Hutchmaker's coming back, along with
That
Ty
would be
Robinson.
massive. That would be
So
absolutely massive.
I mean, if you get those two
Literally
guys
and
back,
figuratively.
yeah, and then he made a great point with Tommy Hill. I mean, Tommy Hill had he led the Big Ten in pass breakups with 12, and he had 4 interceptions all in Big Ten play. So I mean, he is probably going to be, he probably should be like a third team All Big Ten cornerback. So you've got him back. Isaac Gifford is a guy that's up in the air. I'm not sure if he's going to return or not. I would like it. I think he would be a big guy coming back. But obviously, they're getting most of these defensive players back, and they're getting, you've got Prince William Malian and Cameron Leonard, who I think next year are going to be like big time players. You've got James Williams and Kai Wallen that didn't redshirt who contributed this year, but they saved their redshirt. So I mean, you look at all four of those rushing pass rushers, with Nash and with Ty Robinson inside. I mean, that the defensive line is going to be really good next year. Obviously, I think that Reimer's a senior. I'm not 100% sure. Heinrich, I believe, is too. So there's going to be some turnover there. But I think that there's a lot of reasons to be excited about this defense. And then it's just a matter of, offensively, what can these guys kind of get done? And I look at this team, and I think they do need some transfer portal help at quarterback. I think they need transfer portal help at wide receiver. And potentially offensive line, and then they can kind of go from there. But if they can put together a competent offense that cannot lead the nation in turnovers, because if they're, they average 2.6 turnovers a game. If they averaged 1.5, they probably win 8 games this year. I mean, legitimately, that's really, I mean, if they just solve the turnover issue, this team wins 8 games in 2022 or 2023. Excuse me.
No, and I think on the offensive side of the football, you saw a lot of growth this year. Matt Rhule talked about development in his introductory press conference last year, and we saw the development of a lot of players on the offensive side of the football. Emmett Johnson, you know, Jaden Doss really kind of, emerged a little bit. Jalen Lloyd, Malachi Coleman, and I think all these guys are going to be big time players next season the with a competent quarterback, and that's also something that, in my opinion, you can sell to a potential transfer portal quarterback. Yes, they're only freshmen, but they are big time playmakers, and you kind of saw what they were able to do with Heinrich Harburg and the carousel of quarterbacks that we had. Now I expect them to take another leap and really shine next season. And then what do good programs do? They build depth. Players like Ja'Cory Barney, you know, um, Isaiah McMorris, David Hall, they're all coming in next year too. So this wide receiver position is going to be replenished, in my opinion, pretty quickly.
Yeah, I like the receiver position. Jalen Lloyd was one of just 2 players in the Big Ten. Him and Marvin Harrison Jr. was one of 2 players with 3 touchdown receptions of over 55 yards.
Not bad
So
company.
yeah, not bad company to keep for a freshman that basically didn't even have an offer before Matt Rhule got here. So let's look back, and people kind of questioning some of the offers that Matt Rhule made. Well, I think he knows what he's doing. But yeah, so I mean, you got Jalen Lloyd, who I think has a lot of potential, and really I think he could be a dangerous slot receiver.
Yeah,
And for kind of taking over for Billy Kemp. I think Malachi Coleman's going to be ready for a starting role. I just would like to see one other veteran on the other side. And, if
yeah,
Marcus Washington can get his waiver for this year, which he's going to try to, I don't think he's going to be successful to get another injury waiver. If he could come back, like, I'd be fine with that. I just want him to get one veteran guy that can kind of count on and kind of help show these guys the ropes a little bit more. But yeah, there's a lot to be excited about in the receiver room. And then bring in Carter Nelson. I'm not sure what his role is going to be next. I think he's going to have a role next year. I think it's going to take some time and adjusting, coming from 8-man football and trying to figure out what the best role is for him. So it's I think that this is going to be a really good recruiting class, but I would caution, I don't think that there's going to be, guys just don't walk in and play a ton in the Big Ten, anymore as freshmen. Now they can, and I do think Nebraska has some guys that
yeah,
will, but I don't know that there's going to be anyone that's going to, be an impact player from this class. And I think part of that is because this team actually has, defensively, they've got a lot of depth. I mean, they've got a lot of people coming back. Offensively, maybe Grant Bricks, if he signs, he's one that could get into the mix. Carter Nelson, I'm sure they'll find a way to get him some touches next year. Preston Tauma is a guy that could potentially, if Bryce Benhart doesn't come back, he could potentially be in the mix. But you definitely at least want to have some quality guy. I would like to see them add, like if Ben Hurt leaves, especially, I would like to see them add, a tackle or two to make sure that you at least, if Grant Bricks is going to win that job, like make him earn it, make him beat somebody out for it. That's it's kind of like in the NFL when you draft a rookie and then you sign a veteran type thing. I think that's what Nebraska needs to do with some of those positions. But the most important one to me is they've got to find a quarterback in the transfer portal. I think that Chuba could develop into a quality starter, but there's too much to risk, to put all of your eggs in his basket, so to speak. So they need to find somebody that can compete. And that I just would like them to get like a Sam Hartman type, somebody that, is so good that, Chuba Purdy ain't beating him out. That's, you know what I mean? So we'll see how that plays out. But that's my biggest question mark this offseason, because if they go get a proven quarterback, this team can win 8 to 10 games, in my opinion, next year.
I agree, and I think we mentioned USC and UCLA. I mean, I think USC is going to have an entirely different quarterback next year, so it's not out of the question that we could give them a
Yeah,
game.
look at them this year. They had one of the best in college football, and they went 7-5. So um, they've got Malachi Nelson, who was the number 2 quarterback, I believe, in the 2023 class. So he's going to be their guy next year. I can't believe they would be adding anybody from the transfer portal. That would surprise me greatly. That would tell me that they don't think Malachi Nelson's that great. But then again, it is tough to come in and play as a freshman. So we'll see. And Lincoln, the thing about Lincoln Riley is he's kind of going to be on the hot seat too, because it's one thing when you're Matt Rhule, but then when you leave Oklahoma to go to USC, like that's not you're expected to win national
Right away.
championships or compete, and especially when they got so close last year, and then you had a lot of the same guys, and you totally just fall on your face like that. That's not, I wouldn't want to be Lincoln Riley right now.
And then also you got me neither. You also got Ohio State. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen with Ryan Day. You know,
Wouldn't want to be Ryan Day today.
no, not at all. And Kyle McCord, will probably start next year, maybe. I mean, you kind of are plugged in a little bit more to Ohio State than I am. I just focus on like Iowa and Nebraska and things like that. But quite honestly, I'm not. You take away, and I'm sure this is true for anybody, but my point still stands. You take away guys like Marvin Harrison Jr. and all those playmakers, and I'm not really impressed with Kyle McCord. They're a good football team, but I was watching the game on Saturday, and quite honestly, I was more impressed with their defense. I thought their defense, even though they lost, I thought they played reasonably well. So I'm not necessarily scared of Ohio State next year, especially if there's coaching turnover. And quite honestly, I think it's just so funny because, fans are so mad that Ohio State lost to Michigan,
Yeah,
right? And Ohio State's 11-2 now, right?
11-1.
Oh,
Yeah.
they're still 11-1. So
Yep.
meanwhile, we are mad that we can't even get to a bowl game at 6 wins or get
Yeah.
6 wins. And it's just crazy. Like, man, I would love to be so mad that we're 11-1 and
Sure.
go into like probably some January game either way. So I mean, it's just crazy. Like, there's crazy fans everywhere, and it's just interesting to look at the juxtaposition between us and a program like Ohio State. Like, I would love to have the luxury of being mad at an 11-win season.
Yeah, well, Nebraska used to have that luxury. Nebraska fans were mad at, like 1996. They were mad at that they didn't win the national title, and so yeah,
Yeah, well, I
it,
was 1 year old then, and I'm 28, almost 29, so it's a long,
yeah. So
a long time.
it has been, yeah. So it will be interesting to see how that situation plays out. And UCLA could have a new head coach. They haven't really said they were going to. There was talk they were going to fire Chip Kelly, and then he beat the crap out of USC, and now they don't really know. And so yeah, it could be really interesting to see how that all plays out. But I do think that Nebraska is in a good spot with Matt Rhule. I do think the game management. Like at the end of the day, I'm not as worried about the game management. Like it really annoys me in the moment because I feel like this team could
Yeah.
have but at the end of the day too, it's like if you get better players, it does make it, because like, okay, here's the thing is if you have JJ McCarthy as your quarterback on that drive against Wisconsin, like you're not thinking like once you get that first down, you're taking time out and you're going for the win. Because like if you really, really, truly, I mean, I think that just shows you how much Matt Rhule at the end of the day didn't trust Chubba Purdy, and I think last week showed he was right not to trust Chubba Purdy because I mean, literally, he lost. I mean, he threw the game away when we were at midfield. So I mean, it's like, if you had a Caleb Williams, like if you had somebody, even a Sam Hartman, like your game management like you wouldn't be worried about throwing the ball in the end zone on 3rd and 6. You'd be like, why the hell aren't we throwing it? Because our quarterback is good, but our quarterbacks are so bad that like even throwing the ball on 3rd and 6, you're like, why? Don't even do it. Don't even do it. Just kick a field goal. So I think if you get like a legitimate starting quarterback that doesn't handicap the entire offense, I think it just makes the whole game management thing much easier because you can
Yeah.
actually, you know what I mean? Like it's just
Yep.
the way that they had to try to compensate for their quarterback, I think just really put Matt Rhule in some conundrums with the game management. And then so yeah, if at the end of it's like, with basketball, like trying to win a close game, it's like, you can talk about being like, more prepared at the end of the game, but really what it comes down to is you need players who can dribble the ball, who can make free throws, who can make good passes. Like that's not so much coaching. You just need better players. So I think if they get a better quarterback, then the game management, I think, will in part take care of itself.
And also, I think, sophomore year, Tristan Alvano will take away some of the worry as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are points at times this season where, I think Matt Rhule was probably worried about sending Alvano out there. And, you know, he did miss kicks this year. There's no doubt about it. I'm not going to give up on him because it's been a while since we've had a consistent kicker. And, people don't want to hear this either, but he's an 18-year-old freshman. I mean,
Yeah,
there's still a lot of learning and there's still a lot of growth to go for him, and to give up on him now like some fans want to do. I'm not saying you, but I've seen all over my timeline fans want to get a kicker in the transfer portal, and I
just
mean,
dumb. So
yeah,
dumb.
I don't. Yeah, it is kind of dumb. If he's doing this his junior year, then maybe bring in some competition. But right now, he's just developing. He's just growing, and he did make some key kicks. The one to go into overtime against Wisconsin was one of them, and
Made
you
some
know,
big kicks against Northwestern, if I remember
yeah,
correctly.
he had that one that he absolutely drilled from what was it, 40
Yeah,
or
that
44,
was. I think he made a
54,
57 yarder.
7? Yeah,
I think it
and
was like 56. It was it was pretty close to the Alex Henry. It wasn't quite, but it was like 56 or 55 or something.
it was a laser too. It was an absolute
Yeah.
laser. So, I mean,
And
I'm
I
not ready.
and I think that was against, it might have been Purdue, but it might have been against Northwestern too. Either way, it was a close game, and I know it was a big kick when he made it. So yeah, and I just, that kick he tried on Friday too. I mean, it was 44 yards dead into the wind. It's not like he missed a 30-yard field goal with no weather. So I mean, that was a tough kick. And
And I
so
could see like what he was trying to do. He was trying to get the wind to carry it back over, over the goalpost, and it just didn't carry. So just little stuff like that, technique wise, he'll pick up and he'll learn, because unlike other kickers we've had, there is no question that Alvano has the leg to do it. There is absolutely zero question. It's just a matter of technique and getting better. So I'm excited to see his growth next year too. And quite honestly, maybe we'll have him on the show at some point in the offseason.
yeah, we should try to get Tristan back. He did a great. He'll be fine. I think he'll do a good job. And that is one thing. The special teams, I think, do need to get better. And Ed Foley, I think, will work with that. And part of that too is the players. Like Tristan's going to get, because basically the way I look at it, the coverage was pretty good this year. I
Yeah.
don't believe they gave up any return touchdowns unless I'm totally blanking.
I don't think so
Um,
either, and that used to be a major problem, like, even 2 years
yeah,
ago. So that is a marker for improvement. I know that sounds to some like, a terrible, that's a stupid metric, but Nebraska prior to this year, was always good for a couple kickoff returns for touchdowns a season. So,
and then you look at, yes, Tristan missed some kicks, but I think that will correct itself next year with his development. And then I just think you need to find, like I said, a big time return guy, whether that's the JUCO Trey Richardson, who's going to be visiting December 16th, or somebody else. Like they need to find somebody who's a weapon in the return game. And because I mean, how many, Iowa's been able to do that for years, and that's been a big benefit for them. So that's one thing. I think Matt Rhule understands the importance of special teams, and so I do think that if they can find a big return guy, that'll make a big difference. Because outside of that, they were really close to being pretty good on special teams, and the defense was good. Just got to find a quarterback. So I guess to shift a little bit, some of the off-season priorities here in the last, kind of part here of the show. Obviously, we've said, quarterback I think is a big one. What are some of your off-season priorities, either for this 2024 class, which is signing in a little less than a month now, about 3 weeks, and
That's nuts,
this,
isn't it?
yeah, and then the transfer portal, which will be opening, I believe, next Monday.
Yeah, I think you're right on the opening of the transfer portal, and man, it seems like Carter Nelson just committed, and now we're at the end of the season, 3 weeks away from early signing day. It's like, wow. But anyway, um, another running back in the transfer portal, or another running back for the room would be good. I know they're bringing in Lamar Radcliffe for a visit on December 15th. He's a 4-star running back out of Sacramento, originally committed to Utah. And he decommitted over the summer. So I'd love to add more depth to the running back room because, coming into the season, you thought our running back room was pretty stacked, and it was until injuries kind of took that depth away. And fortunately, a silver lining to this was we got to see the emergence of Emmett Johnson, and I'd love to see a guy like Radcliffe, for example, come in and help out the room because they're going to have Emmett Johnson. They're going to have Ramir Johnson back. They're going to have Quentin Ives. I mean, that's a pretty nice room. And so adding a guy like Lamar Radcliffe would be good. And then I'm trying to think on the defensive side of football if we need any specific position. Uh, we're pretty we're pretty set defensively. Maybe another corner, but I mean honestly, if Ty Robinson didn't come back and Nash, he hasn't announced anything, but we're assuming he's coming back. I mean, if they didn't come back, then I would say defensive lineman. But I like the way we line up defensively. It's more honestly, and stop me if you've heard this one before. It's more addressing the offensive issues than the defensive issues for Nebraska. A quarterback and running back, in my opinion, are the two biggest needs because depth for both of those positions goes quickly.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, defensive line, offensive tackles, quarterbacks. Those are going to be the three the three big positions. I don't know if they running back. I think I feel okay with Emmett Johnson, and I'm not sure. I believe that Gabe Ervin would be back next year. I don't really know all about that. Radcliffe I think would be a nice commitment if they can get him. There's going to be a dead period from December 1st to the 15th. That's why he's taking the visit the 16th or whatever the date. That's the last day of the dead period. So there's a couple weeks of dead period here. Not that you can still, I think you can still text kids, but outside of that, they can't come on campus or anything. So that last week will be really interesting with, Trey Richardson and Radcliffe. They had the other running back that visited this weekend. That was, I
From
want to
Boise
say
State or
Gibson.
the Boise State commit? Or
Yeah, Gibson. So yeah, there's a couple of guys there to watch to see how that kind of plays out. I mean, my biggest thing is let's get the. I mean, at this point, I'm wondering if Grant Brix is just not going to say anything until signing day. I don't. I mean, he might just sign,
I mean,
and
that would
people
be very
said that
on brand
actually.
because he's had a
It
very
would be.
quiet commitment overall. Yeah, so
It.
that
I mean, they've Brian Munson said that. Like, it wouldn't surprise him if he didn't even like make an announcement. Just that's kind of how Grant Brix is. So I kind of like that, but. I mean, Chad Simmons from On3 put in another pick yesterday. So I mean, you've got Chad Simmons, Wilt Fong, a bunch of other people. I mean, I feel like it's a done deal. But just get those guys to the finish line. I feel really great about this 2024 class with Grant Brix part of it. I mean, you get two top 150 offensive linemen. You get a top 100 tight end. You get a elite 11 quarterback. You get two wide receivers who I think are both blue chip caliber players. Ja'Cory Barney, actually three, because I think Ja'Cory Barney is a blue chip player, but I think he's still underrated where he's at.
and he was a
So
finalist for Miami-Dade wide receiver of the year, which in Florida, with the amount of talent that they have, especially at wide receiver, that's no slouch of an honor. I mean,
Yeah, so it's too bad we lost Keelan Lacey because this would be a star-studded class, but
I think he's
you
going to
know,
Bama,
yeah,
honestly.
he's probably going to Bama. So,
And
I mean,
Hutchinson at Alabama.
yeah, that would be pretty hard, especially with all the first round picks they've had at that position.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, if you get Daniel Radcliffe, or who is a ranked 520, I mean that's my number one target right now at the running back board, and get him on campus. I think you've got a good chance to get him, and that's another really good class. So, I feel pretty good about this class going forward, and just got to find a quarterback. That's my number one thing. If this team can find a proven quarterback, I have zero doubt that they will win 8-9 games next season. Zero doubt.
And I have to say, in comparison from last offseason to this offseason, I was very impressed with Donovan Rayola.
Mm-hmm.
I've been impressed with the way the line has developed once he's been able to coach up his guys and have a complementary offensive system, unlike Mark Whipple. And also I'm impressed, not just throughout his tenure, but also just this calendar year and this cycle. I've been impressed with his recruiting chops because I remember you and I were talking earlier, not on the show, but just in the chat, how he's kind of got to step up and be that recruiter. Well, over the last years, so he really has. So I've been impressed with the work that he's done this season and this calendar year, and obviously we'll see what happens next season, but that's a coaching move that Matt Rhule made, sticking with him, that I think may pay dividends.
Yeah, and I think Terrence Knighton has been a
So
really good
shout out to him.
hire.
I've been dissing on Rayola a lot, and I'll eat my words happily.
Yeah, he did a great job, with this group and with this recruiting class. So it looks we're starting to, that's one of the things I'm most comfortable or most confident in, is that Matt Rhule, he kind of delivered on that promise of being better in the trenches, and that's how this program is going to get. Like, if you want to look at how Michigan had beat Ohio State 3 times in a row, okay, it has nothing to do with signs. It has to do with the fact that when Ohio State used to beat Michigan, when they had Urban Meyer, they won the rushing battle. They were tougher in the trenches. They won the line of scrimmage every year. Zeke Elliott, I can't even remember all the running backs now, but they would just run the ball right down Michigan's throat. It wasn't some pass happy offense. I mean, they did have obviously good quarterbacks, and then Ryan Day came in, and Jim Harbaugh kind of doubled down on that philosophy and said, we're going to win in the trenches. And that's how they've won. It has nothing to do with, you can have all the fancy toys you want at wide receiver that you want, but you have to be able to control the line of scrimmage to win football games. And if you want to look at the two teams that were in the Super Bowl last year, like, yeah, Jalen Hurts and Pat Mahomes are great. They're two of the best, but they also have two of the best offensive and defensive lines in the league. And you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, they never every single time they draft someone in the first round, almost, it's a guy that weighs 300 pounds, because those are the guys that win football games, and the quarterback too, obviously. But you need to have one quarterback and about 10 guys that are 300 pounds that can play. And I think that Nebraska is, long story short, they're building along that path. So that's what has me excited about the future, is they know how to build this team from the inside out.
Preston and Grant on the line, as offensive line commits, like, that's a nice little combo right there. I gotta say that's pretty solid. And then you have you just I think in terms of the line itself, you have a lot to be excited about. And I think Donovan Rayola is a good example of what happens, when you start to build consistency, because the offensive line position, we talked about the coordinator, the shuffling of coordinators throughout the years, and quite honestly, the same has kind of happened at the offensive line. And Matt Rhule took a chance by hiring Donovan Rayola back, and it looks as though it's been paying off. So I'm excited to see what Rayola can do in his third season, because I think we'll continue to see growth at the position, and growth that we haven't had in a long time.
Yeah, a lot of good growth there that we haven't had in a long time, and that's going to be a really good thing here. Before I kind of wanted to wrap up, just wanted to touch on, obviously basketball got a big win yesterday over Cal State Fullerton. So that was good for them to see them. They improved to 7-0 on the season. The defense was a little disappointing to see him give up that much, 82 points. It was 85-72, but still 7-0. And then the big one next Sunday against Creighton. The Creighton is ranked. They're 5-1. Nebraska's 7-0. So that's going to be a pretty fun matchup. Obviously, the Huskers won last season, so hopefully to make it 2 in a row over Creighton. And also the volleyball team, they lost on Friday night, which was a bummer, to Wisconsin, but still the number 1 overall seed in the NCAA tournament. And they'll be opening up on Friday against Long Island University. They'll be hosting up through, I think, the regional final. So anyway, lots of stuff happening this week. Nebraska basketball on Sunday, volleyball on Friday, and we'll be covering a lot of news on the Husker Big Red site about football and all those other things. So make sure that you buckle up. It's going to be a busy offseason here for Nebraska football fans.
And a long one. Like next August seems so far away. I'm so disappointed. I went through this grieving process on Friday, but every year I'm excited for 4 months, and then the months end, and then we start the cycle again. I guess this is my life now.
Yeah, I mean it's disappointing the season's over, especially because it ended with such a thud.
Well,
But
it just went by so fast. Like it really did go by really fast, I thought.
I mean, yeah, it's crazy. We're at championship week, so we've got one more. We got championship week, and then it's bowl season, and then all football is over. So it's crazy how quick it comes. But we will be here with you every step of the way for the offseason.
Absolutely destroy Iowa, by the way. Like I can't even believe that's a matchup that's allowed. Michigan is gonna, I think, run the table with Iowa. It's gonna be a boring championship game.
Should be, but you never know with Iowa. Iowa's crazy, so I don't know. They scare me. But at any rate, guys, make sure you check out HuskerBigRed.com. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. We're trying to get up to 1,000 subscribers quickly this offseason, so please help us out. Subscribe, hit the like button, get into the comment section. And as always, go Big Red.
Go Big Red.